Where's Fielder? He's gone to the dogs.
Welcome to the Gone to the Dogs podcast. Do we have a good one for you today? You had to be under a rock this past weekend if you weren't aware of the Joy Super Hunt down in the Lone Star State of Texas. I think everybody in the coonhound world was perched in front of their YouTube devices this weekend. I know I was. I looked forward to it. I thought it was coming on at 6 o'clock. Well, that was Central Time, so I had to wait an extra hour. And I even convinced Ella to watch it with me, and she enjoyed it. So today we have the stars of that show, really. One of them was in the wings, and the other one was front stage and center. We've got, of course, the winner of the Joy Super Hunt with the Tree and Walker female Lone Pine Lady. The handler, the guy that did the driving, made the calls, and emerged the winner, John Strickland. How you doing, John?
Hey, Steve. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. Do I sound good? Do I sound like I'm really on TV?
Sound very enthusiastic. Yeah, you sound like
enthusiastic.
I was Hotel. There you go.
I am, man. I am pumped. And that behind the scenes guy, the guy that the engineer, let's call him, the founder and creator,
The navigator.
Navigator. Okay, the navigator from up in the Keystone State of Pennsylvania, Mr. Randy Smith, my bud. How you doing, Randy?
Great, fellas. How are you?
Oh, we're good. Couldn't be better. Man, I am so happy that you guys found time in a busy schedule, I'm sure, to visit with me a little bit this week, because my listeners, I'm sure, are going to be wanting to know all they can about this. As I was thinking about bringing you guys on, I had to think back to a time, actually would have been around the early 2000s. I was at the Grand American, and I was representing PKC at that time. And of course, the Grand American at that time was a UKC licensed event. It had been with the AKC before. And I got together there on the grounds at the fairgrounds with Wayne Cavanaugh of UKC and Bill Speck, who was in the performance division at AKC. And we discussed this very thing of getting the world champions of all three registries together. And everybody was in agreement that it would be a great thing and that we would like to do it. Of course, we'd have to have the consent of the contestants. And back in those days, back in those days, when a guy won a world championship, he pretty much parked that dog and didn't hunt him anymore. And so the question presented itself, would these guys be willing to hunt? Long story short is that we didn't get it done. I don't know if it was my fault or Wayne's or Bill's, but we didn't get it done. But long here, probably 20 years later, we see Josh Michaelis and Wade. Is it Grasowitz? Do I pronounce that right? Wade's last name?
Yes.
Okay. Anyway, lo and behold, we've got a super hunt involving the UKC World Champion, the PKC World Champion, and the top money winning dog in pro sport, which unfortunately AKC's not that big a player anymore. So anyway, that's what we ended up with last week. Let me ask you guys, just kind of get us rolling here a little bit. How's this feel to win a hunt of this magnitude? Either one of you want to go?
Yeah, go ahead, Randy.
What was the question, Steve? I didn't catch the last part.
All right. I said, what what are you feeling right now about winning this thing, and what significance do you put in it? And, just from a personal basis, to me, I think most people would say, man, that's really amazing. But how
Well,
do you feel about it?
this last year and a couple months or whatever has been just a dream of mine coming true since I got with John and it's like this. I've been for about 35 years here since I got to be partners with Tom Strang, and we've been breeding dogs and trying to keep getting something better. I've been waiting to be noticed for about 35 years, and it finally happened, and it happened with a few of the dogs now here, and they've been doing really well and kind of, you know, put my place in history here, and I'm just very grateful for it. And I feel really blessed that it's all worked out like this. And I could have, I wanted to, to keep doing something bigger, but I never dreamt that it could have gone this well. So I'm just, it's humbling, and I'm very, very appreciative of everybody involved. It's because it takes a lot of work from a lot of people to make stuff like this happen.
John, what are you feeling right now after all this? I know
Steve,
you were Mr. Cool as I watched that video, and I liked your remarks about going into the final cast and all, and how, this was you made it sound like it was the easy part. But,
I feel that way, Steve. I mean, when you do the work and you put your time in and you dig the ditch per se. Once the ditch is done, laying the pipe is the easy part. You get your ditch, your pipe just lays down in there. And that's what I was trying to say when Ben was interviewing me on the way. And I'm like, man, this is the fun. I mean, the work was done months ago. The work was done driving the 15 hours straight. The work was done when Randy bred the dogs, and when Austin and Randy and all those guys hunted and trained and got them started. That was the work. This is the icing, and when you've got everything together and everything's worked out right and you're there and you're at the top of the pinnacle. It's time to sit there and look out and enjoy the view, and that's kind of attitude that I take of it. It just like I said, I'm enjoying the view. That's the easiest way to put it.
well, it's a lofty view for sure. I could have never imagined how quickly everything in my world right now moves very fast. My dad told me when I'm 50 years, he said, when you get to be 50, it's going to move incredibly fast for you, the years. And that's where I am right now. And when I look at this to see how far we've come, I look back at the days when we had our first website and had our first message board and did our first play-by-play, typing it out. And I laughed last night as I looked at those little symbols by the scores, the C and the P for pending and all that. And I'm telling them, that's the stuff I did right at first in the back in those earliest days to try to show people what's going on, And now I look at it and see how fast it's accelerated, and it just keeps getting better and better, and equipment's better, and communication's better, and also the world's moving very, very fast for me right now, and I'm like I'm like maybe some of the handlers last night on the cast. I'm really struggling to keep up a little bit, but anyway, wow, what a ride! It's well, I for my listeners out there, I think a lot of people think, well, this level, I'll never attain that level. My pond I'm going to swim in is going to be the local club. And I'm going to try to make a night champion out of my dog or whatever. What do you guys recommend? Do you recommend that these young guys that come into the sport and so forth, that they aim for the stars, or just be happy to let things develop slowly? What do you think about that?
Well, whenever I first started hunting, and I started to go to some competition hunts. The first couple hunts I went to, I had a grade dog that I hunted. So that was that was humble beginnings. But I always told myself in the beginning there, as I looked in the magazine and I, soaked in all those pedigrees and all that stuff, I thought if I could just ever make one Grand Night champion, I'd be happy. So I guess if everybody starts out like that, anybody could do it if you really put your heart and soul into it. I guess, it just depends on how goal driven you are, I guess.
John, back when you were hunting knothead or maybe some of the earlier dogs than that, did you foresee this?
Steve, I was always like wanted to, when I first started out, you had the 3-hour UKC hunts and it was forever. It's funny. People ask me all the time, but I remember the first time I ever won, the first trophy I ever won at a UKC hunt in Richmond Hill, Georgia. It's the very first one. I had Paul Sheffield on the cast with old Hardwood Dan, a real dog, real machine. And I didn't have very much of a dog. I had which everything stayed together back then. I just had a backpacker, and I knew I was a kid. I mean, I was young, but I knew when old Dan come with it in there that mine would be there, and we were turning out and they was off the chain. We were striking coon, just driving them in there that night. And I figured out real quick, hey, they're all barking. I'm going to get me a strike. And then when old Dan comes with it in there, if anything else is even around, I'm treeing. And mine will be good. And at the end of the night, I ended up, like I said, it's 3-hour hunting. We had, I ended up with 1387 and a half. That was the score, 3-hour hunt.
Wow.
And left out of there. And Paul was kind of like a mentor to me. And it's funny because I rode with him. Now, you're talking about a 14-year-old kid, so we walking out, and this guy judging, he says, man, good job, kid, good job. You did a good job. And old Paul says, oh, no, he didn't win this cast. This guy said, yes, he did. He said, oh, no, I won this cast. And this guy says, no, Mr. Paul, here's the score. You're beat on tiebreaker. And Paul, I rode with him, and I was guiding. I mean, I was a kid, but I was guiding. I still hunt the place. Doug Galbraith lives in the middle of the woods that I'm talking about. I hunted that night, and Paul left me. He didn't even bring me back to the club. These other guys hauled me back to the club. He just left me. And then I go down. That's when they had this big, we had a really nice clubhouse, and they had big picnic tables, and they served a good breakfast, and breakfast was $2, I'll never forget. And I had my quarters, because Mom would give me quarters, And I laid my quarters down, I got my big old breakfast. I was so happy. Sophie was taller than me, and I walked over there, and I was high scoring dog and all this, and I sat down beside Mr. Paul while he was eating breakfast. And when I sat down, he got up and picked his eggs and his bacon up, and he moved down about 4 tables and sat back down.
He didn't like to lose, did he?
Oh, he was mad. Horrible. He's a 14-year-old kid that he mentored. I hunted with him every night, but Paul made the trophies and built the trophies and sold the trophies. And by God, he wanted to take the big trophies that were expensive home with him because he wanted to make more trophies out of them, so he would win these things. And it was like a $10 or $15 entry fee. But I remember at that time thinking, I remember it plain as day thinking one day I'm going to be like him and expect to win every time. And when somebody beats me, I'm going to pick up my eggs and move too. But what I was saying is I started in the hunts when I was 9 years old. And you think about this. And I went to every one I could possibly go to. I had a guy that loved to run all the local hunts, and they had one every weekend. And I went to, I don't know how many, hundreds of them probably, before I ever won my cast. And that was it. I was like 15 at that time. And that was the first cast that I ever won.
Yeah.
So 5 years before you win a cast.
Well, you gotta love it, and
That kind of determines, you know what I mean?
well, we always remember back the first ones. I can remember my first trophy. I won at the Southeastern Ohio Championship in Barlow, Ohio. My dad drove me up there. I didn't have a license yet. I won 6th place, and I rubbed all the paint off of that tree and dog on the way home. So excited, about it and all. But yeah, when you get back to those stories of hunting with Mr. Paul, he was a competitor. And I want to talk to you guys. I've got so many Paul Sheffield stories, I better not get started. And I know you got a lot more than I do. John, did you ever hunt with him, Randy?
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah. I just recall one little thing.
He was during the
during
the time when I started coon hunting. I was down at Tony Daviduck's whenever he had litter out of world champion Joey and Hardwood Dan. That was when I started getting around and meeting people and things. Was during his tenure. I remember well. He was had a monthly photo shoot in the magazine.
Right.
Yeah, he did. Steve, another one. That was the first time I hunted with him. Okay, and the last time I hunted with him. Now I'm a grown man, and Buddy Gillettery's like a second dad to me, and him and Buddy, rode everywhere together. Later on in life, they were best friends.
Yep.
And I was hunting habits, and it's funny. I was hunting on habit, and Buddy kept ragging me about. I hated Waycross, Georgia. I mean, you hunt feeder buckets, and you got the dog leaves swimming. It was awful. It wasn't my kind of hunting. And he'd always rag me. Old habit tree, a coon down here, he'll solidify himself as a coon dog in my mind. I don't care how much you win. So finally, they was having a little old 50 or 15 or whatever. I don't know what it was. Hunt. It was on a Friday night. And I said, I'm coming. And he laughed. I said, I'm coming. He laughed. I said, you'll see, I'm coming down there. And I get down there, and I draw. I'm hunting habit, and I draw Buddy, and I draw Paul. 3 dog test.
Oh boy!
And they had me judging, and I looked at Buddy. I said, "Oh no, I'm not judging." He said, "Oh, you are." I said, "No, you're friends. You can handle that cantankerous old sucker. I'm not judging him. He's cantankerous, and he can't hear a lick. He cannot hear anything, and no matter what you do, it's going to be wrong. So I'm not judging." And we get down there, and old Habit put on a clinic, get right out the truck. Oh, Habit had a big old mouth. We turned loose, and about 3 minutes passes, and all of a sudden in there about 700. Wow, on the second mark. And I said to Buddy, that's 2, because down there you might not go an hour and not tree 2. I said, that's 2. I was going to make you, 3 before I struck you. And I said, that's 2 on me. And when I said on me, Paul, strike old Dan, or not Dan, Luke. He was up, Luke, strike him. And Buddy got to laughing. And I said, oh, that ain't Luke. He goes, yeah, my gosh, here's Luke. And I said, that ain't Luke. You know it. He goes, it's Luke. And now he's treed. And I just said, well, Buddy, strike me and tree me, And Buddy said, Mr. Paul, you minus. And he grumbled, went in and found this coon and turned back loose. Now Luke opens in there, and he don't say nothing. He's running this track. Now, I mean, this goes on for 30 seconds. He's driving this track. Finally, Buddy says, Mr. Paul, I need you to strike. He goes, what are you talking about? He goes, your dog. And he goes, well, I figure you 2 knew my dog better than I did, so I just let y'all do one strike. In other words, I ain't striking tree and nothing. Y'all know my dog better than I do. Y'all do it.
Oh, man.
Old. He was old. I mean, he was, he couldn't hear.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. As we get older, we do get cantankerous sometimes. One little quick story. I had a lady tell me one time during the Purina races, probably out in Indiana or somewhere, and she's looking over there at Paul in his bib overalls and his tennis shoes, and before the hunt, and she said, "Don't you feel sorry for that old man having to hunt with those guys that he's having to hunt against?" I said, "Lady, you don't need to worry about that old man. You need to worry about those boys."
I promise you that. That's a fact.
Well, we'll always remember Paul Sheffield. He was an icon in our sport, and I knew him when I was in college in Lakeland, Florida. I'd stop by and see him on my way back home to West Virginia. He was hunting plot dogs back then. Well, walk me through this thing. Let's make this a teachable moment. During the year, guys, were you thinking about this hunt at all with Lady, or was this just something that happened after the year was finished and she was sitting on top of the pro sport world? Was there a goal involved, or did it just happen?
Steve, there's so many hunts nowadays going on, and there's so many of the bigger hunts that I mean, I don't know about Randy, but my goal is just to win as many of the biggest and baddest and best that there is.
Right.
And if it had been the Joey Super Hunt or the Steve Fielder Paul Sheffield Invitational, and it was huge and had the hoopla, and then that's what, I mean, that's what my mind was getting ready for. There's so many, and I mean, I still got 2-3 businesses I run, and you know, Randy will tell you, I just don't, my brain, I have a hard time thinking outside the box. I'm kind of focused straight ahead and that next one, and I ain't even thinking about the following. So when we get through with this one, then I'll worry about the next one, you know. And that's just kind of how I'm wired right now. Maybe I'll change as I get a little older, but that's just how it is. That's one at a time, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Randy, from your perspective, and I don't need to get real deep into the weeds when talking about you guys' partnership and all that, but do you just kind of sit back and let John decide which ones he's going to, or do you guys discuss them coming up, or how does that work?
No, after he gets back from one, usually all I say is, "Where are you going to next?" That's all I do.
Yeah.
That's all up to John. And you know, we talked the other day, and I said, you know, I said I was disappointed I wasn't able to go out there. I really wanted to go, but I just had so much going on here with a couple litters of real young pups and everything that I just didn't feel comfortable doing it, you know. And I just said to John, I said, the best thing that we can do is that, you know, you do what you do and I do what I do here, and we'll just keep it going like that.
It'll just kind of work out to be the Joy Super winner.
It worked. Right. It worked.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Thinking here, and it just kind of works out where you win a truck, or you win $100,000, or you win. Well, you know, was this the second year for this Joy Super Hunt?
It was, yes.
Yeah. I didn't pay a lot of attention to it last year. I don't know, but boy, I did this year. It seemed like it really piqued my interest, and a lot of other people too. And what do you think? Go ahead.
I think it was advertised and made known through social media and whatnot a lot more this year.
Yeah.
And I think Josh did a lot better job of you know, promoting it. And I think that EHS series, that Elite Handler series, has helped it, you know, more so. And I think it's just going to continue to grow. I really do. And I think that one day it will be something. But I think now that it's going to be something that people strive for. You know, it's brand new, so it's hard to get going when something's brand new. But once it gets going and people see it, I think you'll have more people this year, you know, trying to get there, fighting to get there than you did last year. And continue, kind of like the TOC deal with UKC. I told Alan the first year, I'm like, man, you ain't seen nothing. Get ready. This is gonna take off. And Alan asked me who wins this hunt, that's a whole nother story. I told you who I thought won it, and I said for the first 4 or 5 years, that's who wins this hunt. And so far, it's fell right in place to exactly what I said, and that hunt, for example, is taking off, and it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
Because it's more publicity and more people knowing about it.
Yeah, I saw the other day, I think Trevor posted there was over 1,400 dogs qualified for the regionals or whatever.
And I think the first year, Steve, it was like 8 something,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, it certainly is, as I'm thinking about this, the potential here for guys to get behind the registry, I think it is kind of cool. I know that probably the UKC guys most of them were rooting for Cookie in this hunt, and the PKC guys were probably rooting for Tank, and then here, of course, you with the Pro Sport organization, and you're there's not as many of you guys, Pro Sport guys, as there is in UKC or PKC. So do you think you were the underdog going into this hunt in any way?
The underdog.
There's no doubt about it. I mean, Randy, you answer that question. Go ahead.
Well, no matter what organization it is, it's still about the dog, but I mean, I guess what I seen, I guess they were probably seemed like there was more people pulling for the other guys. And I mean, I'm sure they got good reason. Those dogs are powerhouses too, but, we've always been kind of in the back burner back here. We're out of the mainstream of coon hunting and everything. So I guess we would be, a little bit, a little bit away from what those guys are in the mainstream, but I didn't think that.
Well, yeah, I didn't mean to imply that either you or John were feeling like you were the underdog.
Yeah,
I think you knew what you had going in.
I feel like this, Steve. Anytime we got a big hunt, I've been doing it so long, and I've been fortunate enough to pack some good dogs and team up with some people that's on some good dogs. And gosh, I've been doing it so long. I guess I've learned not to be nervous and not to do a whole lot of stupid mistakes, which I still will make a bonehead call every now and then, that costs us. But so it seems like if you got a hunt coming up and you get down to it, it seems like I get my fair share of people pulling for John or saying John or John and Lady or John and Paige or John and Buster, whoever, country. I get my fair share. But for some reason in this event, I didn't see much of that. It seemed like Joey and Cookie, more so Cookie than anybody, and maybe it's because of UKC, had more of a fan base, or I ain't saying a fan base, but I'm just saying more people saying they can't beat him, they can't beat him, they can't beat him. I think there was more people thinking that Cookie was going to walk away with this thing than the other anybody else, including Tank, and then Tank, and then us last, and it might have been because they actually won a world hunt, and we was the pro sport didn't have a world hunt, so we was the dog of the year, the most money winningest of the whole year, so, or cast win, however they go. Maybe that was the reason. But I did feel like this in this hunt, and normally I don't feel like that. Normally I feel I've got as much people rooting for me as anybody else, and but this one I did feel that way. Yeah.
Well, if you want to feel the effects of that registry effect, just try going to work for all three known registries at the time. And you will soon figure out, when I left UKC to go to PKC, oh my gosh, and
you
then even then leaving PKC to go of all things to AKC, And right after I did that move, the wisdom of the board of AKC decided to come by and support a bill called Pause, and then the Humane Society of the United States decided to support that too. So that put me in bed with them. So you'll find out real quick about those breed registry loyalties, and they do exist. I don't think as much now as before, but oh boy, I remember when I first went to PKC, Ronnie Bone, who's a friend of mine, but saying, he came up and he recalled to me right face to face. He said, "I remember when you stood up and said, you boys in PKC, all they're doing is playing a game with dogs. They're not really coon hunting. They're just gambling." Now, I don't remember saying that exactly, but that's the way he remembered it.
It's so funny how things are clicking. It's like, for example, when I've been doing this a long time, and when I went and hunted the first autumn oaks I ever hunted in, I hunted Apollo in, and I won it,
Yeah.
and I got there, and most of the time everybody's, "Hey, John," or, I know people, and I get there and Alan knew me, and there was just a handful that knew me. Well, I win this thing, and they have their big Sunday awards ceremony, and, and I get this dog and I walk across there, and I heard with my own ears, like 3 or 4 people say, "Who is that? He's won this. He's won this hunt. Who in the world is that? Come down here and win our hunt. Who is that?" Like I was the brand new first hunt I ever been in kind of deal. Who is that? Who is that? And I remember Jason Cooper standing there and laughing, and we drew out that final test, and Randy Gadd had a dog in there, and there was an old guy standing in the back, and he says, he's standing by Jason Cooper, and Jason said, this old man looked at him, a big diehard UKC guy, and said, "Well, I can tell you who ain't gonna win it." And Jason said, "He said that guy right there with that Apollo dog there ain't no way he can win it. He ain't been around long enough." But Jason said, "Look, that's an old Lord, dude. You don't even know who that is, and then to go forward." So I go to Michigan, and I draw this kid with, I call him a kid. He's a young man, Austin. Also, if you listen to that, I don't mean kid, but I looked at you as a kid then and still do. I draw this kid, and this little old lady just starts putting on a little clinic to us, and I'm hunting Apollo, and we've been very successful winning, and yeah, on the way home, I'm on the phone with Rickliff, and I'm like, who the hell is this? This Randy Smith guy, and just like, "Oh my God, you've been living under a rock. You know who Randy Smith is?" And I'm like, "He's won a world hunt, Lone Pine." I'm like, "I think I've heard that Lone Pine name, but I ain't got a heck, no clue who the heck Randy Smith is. You need to, I don't get it." I said, "All I can tell you," and what I want to know, I wanted the dog. So I'm like, "Well, what kind of guy is he? Will he sell? And where'd the dog come from?" And Jeff laughed. He said, "He ain't gonna sell that dog." But anyway, it's funny how you start there and you get to where you're at.
That's right. That's right. And those registry lines in the past have been very tightly drawn. It reminds me of NASCAR years ago. You were a Ford guy or a Chevy guy or a and then when Toyota came in, oh my God, But so maybe that's going to continue on a little bit and maybe create a little more competition for this super hunt.
I went to a RQE. I was hunting country, and I went to an RQE. This was before the Apollo deal, and I went to an RQE up in, I think it was Muncie, Indiana. And I get there, and I don't know anybody. I know no one there. And I walk in, and I hadn't entered yet. I was going to wait a little while, because they knew country's name, but I was just going to wait. They're all sitting around, and this guy over in the corner, they had a recliner there, and I sit in this recliner, and this guy looks at me. I know he kept looking at me, and I was sitting over there, and I was on the phone, and I was off. Rick Stretch ended up coming, and he wasn't there yet though. But and Rick knew all of them, you know. So I said, and finally this guy gets up and comes and sits down, looks at me, he says, "I know who you are." I'm like, real serious. He said, "I know who you are." I'm like, "You do?" He goes, "Yeah, you John Strickland. You hunt that big country dog, ain't you?" I said, "Yeah." Did you bring him tonight? I said, "Yeah." I ended up signing up, and I won the whole thing, high scoring dog. And when I left, when I come back, that guy's like, "I told you boys." This is the older gentleman there. Said, "I told you boys. I told you." You know, it was like, yeah, dude, he led predicted you gonna win it.
Well, I tell you what, I guess I'm going to have to get royalties when I called you the greatest competition mind in the game, and I saw your buddy Judas calling you the GOAT and all that. I need to get royalties on that because I think I'm the one that started that. But no, I tell you what, John, you've had an amazing career, and it's all about the dogs. Did I lose somebody? I hear somebody's phone beeping. Might be mine. I don't know. Let me see here. What? Yeah, I think that was my phone. Well, okay. Tell me a little bit about the process here. You end up at the end of the year in pro sport. Do you remember how much money you guys won in 23? Anybody?
John, I don't know. John, he knows. He knew more than me.
Did we lose John? You know, that might have been John calling
Yeah,
in.
I think we
Let me
lost
see
him.
if I can get him back. Okay, let me see here. Folks, bear with us just a minute. The trouble is not in your set. We can get John back on the line, and I don't know here. Okay, we're going to pause this recording right here, Randy, just for a second, and see if we can get John back. Okay, we had a little interruption there in the phone service, but no worries. We're all together again. I wanted to ask you guys about the process. I had asked the question about what the earnings were, and Randy kind of deferred to you, John. Do you remember what Lady earned last year in pro sport? Or do you have any idea?
I think total, I was Jordan Mullins and Jacob Bedingfield would be last night. I think total she's crested that 150,000 mark right now with everything.
I got you.
UKC, you know, and pro sport.
Yeah.
In the invitational, I think she's over the 150. I know for a fact, and she's getting close to. She's getting between that 150 and 200 mark. I've got it written down at my desk, and I was going to add it up. Go to the office today, but
yeah,
I'm going to add that up for securities. But I've got every one of them written down.
Well, you know, that is an awful lot of money, and those of us who are down here, you know, wallowing around in a plot race or a state race or something, seems like a mountain too high to climb for some, but it came fairly quickly. Let's see, how long have you guys been partnering on Lady? Do either of you remember? Has it been a year?
October will be 2 years.
2 years.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. At the PKC World Hunt, she last fall, there a year ago, over a year, she went home with John.
I got you.
Yeah.
Well,
I hunted her I hunted her October, all of November, December, and pretty much all of January, and I didn't put her in a hunt until the truck hunt that we won in Oklahoma, and that was like the end of January, 1st of February.
Yeah.
So I hunted her about 3 months or so before I ever put her into an event, you know, and then we went and won it right out the chute. So
Well, that brings to mind that old expression, and I don't know if it was Vince Lombardi or which one that came up with it, but I know Jerry Mall quoted them quite a bit. It's the will to win's not nearly as important as the will to prepare to win.
Yeah,
And I
that is
think
correct.
I remember back there when Lady went to John, and I'm thinking, when's she going to put her in a hunt? When she, because I've said it many times. I remember Lady when she's 8 months old, but you put some prep time in on her before you went to town.
Steve, that's kind of I've kind of always done that. I don't know. I'm not saying it's right for everybody, but it's right for me. Like the country dog. When I got him, I had him for like 4 months before I put him in a hunt. And I actually kept saying, "When you taking him, when you taking him." I'm like, when we're ready, not when he's ready, when we're ready.
Huh.
And I can't feel that calming and that cool, calm, collected, clear thinking if I don't know everything about them. I've got to know everything about them. And once I do, and they know what I want, then I feel like, hey, we can beat anybody and we're not scared of anyone. But I've never been one I could just take a dog out there. I've seen guys like Sluggo. God, he could take a dog you never heard bark and just kill you with him. And
Yeah,
I've
yeah,
just never been able to do that. I've never had that cool, calm feeling that I need in order to win.
yeah.
And I think that's why when I make it to the finals, I seem to have more success than if you look up. My success rate in the finals are greater than like the first cast because the first cast, if you could get me, I'm not as cool and calm, and it's kind of antsy. But once you get to the finals, it's like a different deal. And
Mm.
maybe that's it. I just like to be prepared and ready. I don't know.
Well, it's a confidence thing, I believe, and apparently with you, each hunt, there's a process of building the confidence for that particular hunt that you got. You've got all the pieces in the right place, and is
Right,
that right?
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I do, and I do, and you know what? I'll tell you another thing that's funny that it ain't even come up, and it probably never would unless you vocalize it. Is I've got confidence in like Randy's at home building another one. You know, um, I look and I'm always playing with different dogs and looking and trying, but at the end of the day, I know, hey, I've got a great one of the best that's ever lived right here in this pen. And I'm no fool. I know Randy wants some pups and he wants to breed her and he wants to carry on that lineage one day. So a lot of people kind of be like, you're getting ready to be out of a job kind of situation, but that's never how I feel. I'm like, well, I'm good. He's building another great one. There's another one coming. He's working
Believe
on it
me,
every
there
night.
is.
Yeah, I know that. So it's not like, I've never had that feeling of where's the
Yeah,
next one going to come from, if that makes sense.
yeah. Randy, that kicks the ball over on your side of the court. That pipeline that you have is proving to be amazing. And I'm amazed by it all the time because you and I are friends and you share videos with me of the dogs, and which I appreciate a lot. And when you get to be my age, I hope you have some Randy Smith as a friend that will do the same for you. But what about that? What about this continuing process? Is there a particular process that is it just the culmination of what you've done for all these years, as you say, or how does this pipeline work?
Well, we Tom and I and Rick and the other I haven't bought a dog in forever, really. I've only ever really bought just a couple dogs and bought a couple back that were born here and things like that. But here in the last really couple decades or whatever, I've just been every time I have a litter of pups, I keep one, and whether it's I've had 4 litters at one time or just one litter, I'm dedicated to I keep a pup out of every litter. And you've been here, you've seen that there's always pups running loose here, and
Yep.
it's a pretty good atmosphere to, for a pup to mature and get started and everything. And what I like to do is get them treeing a coon by themselves. And if I can get them in the hands of somebody in really good coon country, which this really isn't, you've been here enough to know that it's not an ideal place to work a pup. You can do it, but it's hard to have reliable places where they can hit a coon easy and stuff like that. So if I have somebody like, Clayton Stark, where I can send a young dog to for a couple months or so, and they get exposed to a lot of game and they get, eased on into becoming, a young adult, then what I like to do is get them back here and get them conditioned to hunting in rough terrain and scattered coons and, recasting. And, like last night, I was hunting. Well, if Troy isn't hunting because he's in school, I hunt by myself. And I just take, dogs and set them up to fail like all night long, that just like turning a young dog into another dog that's treed and making them go on and tree their own coon and recutting. And it's tough work, but that's what it takes to have a winner now. And whenever then they go from here then to different guys that hunt dogs for me. And if we decide that through the competition end of it that, hey, this is turning into like a world-class dog, then they're going to go another step to to try to hit the big leagues with John or like that. And that's the process. And it's been going really, really well. I feel overwhelmingly blessed that this project has really blossomed now. I've got litters of pups that guys are like really fighting over to get. And that's really a great feeling to have, that have 10 generations behind a litter that guys are really that confident to spend hard-earned money like that, and are really anxious to get them. It's huge in my world. It's like my life's work. So it's very, very fulfilling.
Well, it comes to mind to me, horse racing, picking a colt and all the things that are affiliated and all the things that they go through to get to that point. And a lot of right things have to happen and pieces to the puzzle and the right trainer and ultimately, the work routine, all of that. I'm in high weeds here because I'm definitely not a horseman. But anyway, it seems like that you've got that kind of thing going there, whether you actually designed it that way or it evolved that way. But I think of a litter, when you bred Sue, the Frogger, and you had those 3 male pups, and you picked this phenom that you call false prophet. It seems to me, and my buddy Keston and I've talked about it, and he's been there to your place a couple times with me. You have a gift for picking the right pup out of the litter. Can I put you on the spot and ask you, why did you pick Prophet out of that litter of 3 pups? They were all beautiful male pups.
I can't ever explain to somebody about why I pick a certain pup that I do. I just look at them and I go with the gut feeling that I have, and I very seldom, from the time that they're little wee till they go to leave, I usually don't change my mind. Like I just see them, and unless it would be something that I see or that I don't like, but it's just a gut feeling that I get, and I can look back through 25 females that I picked here through the last 10, 15 years or whatever, and I can remember them from the time that they were ready to leave. And like when I picked Baby out, it was like she was the whitest one of the bunch. And, I had people say, look at them, the blanket back ones. I said, no, I don't. And it just, I can't explain it. I don't, I really can't. I don't go through any process about, do they have a black roof in their mouth? Do they, nothing,
A tree knot
nothing.
on their.
Yep. Nothing other than I just, just get an affection for a certain one, and I just pick them. And the thing about, a lot of people say, how do you pick the best one? It's like, since this has been my life's work, I have confidence in that pup that if I give it the right opportunity and I let it mature at its own pace and I don't get in the way of nature, I just groom it to be that they work out. They make it. And some of them, I sent you a video the other day of a little pup here that she must be three months old, and she comes around the side of the building and there's a coon sitting there in a cage, and she just, like, what the heck, and just blows up. That's the way Lady was. I can remember from the day that it happened with her, that she just come around the side of the building there and seen a coon, she just exploded, and I just can't explain it. I don't have any reason.
Yeah, John.
Steve, it might not be the miraculously uh, marvelous picking that he's doing, but any of them might have made it. Maybe it's the training and the time and the effort that he puts in them.
You think?
Maybe there's a slight chance that he's not the wizard of pickers. He's just puts it all in no matter what he picks. You know what I'm saying? There's a good chance there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, when you go to Lone Pine Kennels there on top of the hill in Katanning, Pennsylvania, number one, is a beautiful place, immaculate grounds, and looks like a lodge that you check into out west somewhere. But if you spend the night there at daylight, if you look out the window of the apartment there that he has for visitors, you're going to see a guy down there at the kennel in probably a Carhartt coat or some kind of and he's cleaning kennels and he's letting puppies out and he's doing this and he's doing that. And I mean, at daylight, if it's raining or not or whatever. Rainey, I'm not trying to blow you up here, though, but you're the most dedicated houndsman I've ever seen in your operation, and you've brought it to another level with this pup operation that you have now, and all. But so the old saying, maybe John, I think what you're trying to say, John, is the harder you work, the luckier you get. Maybe, right?
Well, yeah, that, and not only, I don't understand if you look at some of the stuff like social media today, it's the rich man, and I don't understand why in the world he would be out there in his Carhartt jacket. I mean, he's the rich man. He don't have to do any of that. He just buys a dog or gets these dogs and they fall right into it. I don't understand why Randy Smith would be out there cleaning his own dog pen. He, after all, just look at social media and it shows him as the rich man. You know what I'm saying? So why's he got to do all that?
Yeah, they just don't get it, do they? I told Larry Meeks one time, I've always liked to associate myself with successful people. Not for the fact that maybe they're going to toss me a bone now and then, but for the fact that I learn things, and it makes me a better person to be around someone that's successful. And I've always, but we tend to do that, don't we? We say, well, he's just got a gift, he's got the touch, he's got the knack. But I think it comes down to being the knowledge of a lifetime spent with hounds. is probably, and that strong work ethic. And I don't want to blow you up too much here, Randy, being the most driven guy I've ever met in my life. When it comes to getting something done, you're going to get it done. So I hope my listeners out here are getting all this, that, all this success just doesn't happen. It comes with a price, but it can be a labor of love and can be worth the effort. Would you guys say that?
Absolutely.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. What you said, you want to surround yourself around successful people. I've always kind of used the saying that I don't want your cookie, I just want the crumbs. If I get enough crumbs, I can make my own cookie.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Yep.
Well, what was the process really? I mean, once you earned all this money in pro sport, then you get a letter from them or something and saying you're invited, or does Josh call you up and say, "Hey, you're invited to the hunt"? And was there any discussion between you guys as to whether you wanted to participate or anything like that?
No, it's kind of about halfway through the year. You're kind of common knowledge that, hey, this hunt's coming, and the guy that's at the top is going to be the one to go represent pro sport. So at that point, it kind of, you know what I mean? It kind of just falls in, and and then yes, you get I ain't gonna say a letter, you get a phone call, which when you talk to different people all year long, it's kind of a phone call and
sure.
Common conversation. It's like, hey, dude, you guys are 3 wins away from so and so, and in other words, you're right there in the top. To maintain it, so and so's right behind you, and to maintain this and to get to go to super hunt, you might have to kick it in gear. That's kind of what it is.
I got you. Was that a goal for you at the beginning of the year, Randy?
To make this hunt?
Yes.
No. Nope. It's just a pleasant surprise. And she was close even to the other division, the shootout division. She was right there. She did what she was supposed to do mostly, most of the time, and she's got her little peccadillos now and again, but she's a consistent coon in the tree, consistent, really hard hunting female that is easy to call and pretty easy to win with. When you say, John?
Boy, he just gutted me just that quick, didn't he, Steve? He just
didn't give you a bit of credit.
Hey, Rick will run right under. No, he is. I mean, absolutely. I mean, that's, there's some things that at different levels, little tweaking you have to do and whatnot, but for the most part, once you figure her out, she's the same thing. It's like I told Randy either this morning or yesterday, and I'm not going to share on here what it was, but it was only like 2 things that I needed to work on with her, to make her complete. And I started hunting, getting ready for this hunt, I don't know, a couple months ago with her. And then like the last 4 weeks, 5 weeks, I just stepped it up and did nothing. I didn't worry about her making a bad tree. She made a bad tree, I'd get on her, but I wasn't like worried and, hunting and whipping her and making sure that don't happen. That was never in my mind. All that was there. Just a couple things that needed work on for the last 3 or 4 weeks. That's all I did. I concentrated on those 2 things. And they were really one. It was a combination that made 2 things, but they really were one together. And I just hunted for 4 weeks as hard as I could. And that was the goal, is to work on that little bit of weakness, I guess like a bodybuilder, he's got he's got this huge body, but his calves are weak, and he spends more time on the calves than anything, and it pays off. And that's kind of how I look at it. What's the weakness today, and what's going to keep me from winning this hunt? Because you can't fix everything else, in 4 weeks. You can't build one in 4 weeks to win it. You got to have the foundation. So what's our weakness? So let's take our top weakness away and see where it takes us,
Yeah. Well, I noticed in kind of the pre-roll to the show last night, Josh was talking about the decision. I guess Cody decided to hunt, pleasure hunt one night there before the hunt. Apparently, you didn't. I don't remember if the tank dog hunted a pleasure night or not, but you chose not to hunt her. Letting her rest, or just figured you were good where you were, or any thoughts on that?
No, Steve, it's not that. I'm a firm believer that if you're not ready the night before, then you're not ready. That's just my thing. And we were ready. I mean, we were ready. We worked hard on this deal, and we were ready, and it was there. You know,
Worked like clockwork from where I was sitting.
Yeah, it did. And you know, it was one of them things that, you know, the night before, I'm more paranoid on the night before hunts or the day before that about getting some freak deal happening. For example, running a stick through the pole or getting their foot cut on a rock or, you know, something like that. I'm a lot more paranoid about that than I am. All right, we got one more night to get them ready. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Now I've had some in the past, like Apollo was when you want to hunt the night before to knock the edge off. But Lady's not. She's just, you got to know your dog. Some of them you need to. But if you know your dog and you know what you got, like you might have seen on the video, I'm driving a big camper van now, you know, and I think she needed widespread the coon hunt out of. I mean, to go to hunts and not coon hunt, but it's really, really, really cool. And so that camper van, I got a big pad under the bed. The bed runs across the back, and there's a big pad under there. And where the door locks, it's got a little metal thing, and I just hook a cable to that metal thing, and it's about 10 or 12, 15 foot, and I hook it to her. And she will get out and use the bathroom if she needs to, and maybe get a drink of water, and she'll jump back in that camper like she's the tiredest old woman in the world. I mean, she'll just lay there. She lay there for 2 days, and the whole time you're driving down the road, I look back and she's just laying in the floor back there, like she don't care, you know. And I can look at her and be like, "Man, is that thing dead?" I'll be like, "Lady," she'll pop her tail on the floor a couple of times, and you know. And I'm like, well, I guess she's good. And then when she's got to use the bathroom, if you're driving, she'll get up and she'll walk up through the middle. And it's like, all right, we got to pull over. And she let her do a business, and you open the door, and she goes back, lays back down in the back, you know. So she's just a really unique animal, and she's real easy, real easy.
How old is Lady now, Randy?
I think, has she turned 5, John?
Not yet. No.
She's close to 5.
4. Yeah. Well, that's cool. Well, you touched on this a little bit earlier, John, and I've been at it here with you guys an hour and 2 minutes, and I asked for an hour, so I'm not going to push it. But you mentioned earlier, John, about you thought maybe Randy would want a breeder or whatever. Do you have any plans down that way toward that end, Randy, or you guys together?
Of course. Sure I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been thinking about it every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Lord.
But she's due to be in heat, but we're going to skip her here this time, and she's going to hunt the PKC World Hunt and whatever else John wants to hunt her in, and then we'll probably visit that a lot closer here in 6 months or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay.
I don't want to wait too long. I don't want to wait too long. I mean, but I hate to stop momentum, you know.
Well, John, you were hunting a really nice female named Paige.
Correct.
And you made the decision apparently to breed her, correct?
Well, so I had Ashley Oxidine and Doug Galbert were partners, and
right.
And Doug, he don't care. He whatever John wants to do, but actually, you know, he's kind of more like Randy. he looks at heritage and lineage and and all that good stuff a lot, and it makes a big difference to him. And he really wanted a breeder, and I hunted her, and I won Pro Sport Dog of the Year last year or year before last, I'd say, before Lady with her.
Right.
And whenever the Lady come along, I was pushing page, and would come down, and I was really just trying to get Lady to where I felt comfortable, and hey, we can take over what Page's already won, because we won about 100,000 that year with her too, about the same money. Very, very similar females, just real coon dogs, and so I was pushing her and hoping and saying, all right, Lady's going to fill this void, and actually really wanted a breeder. And to be honest with you, my fault, and unless I'm wrong, when you breed one, it takes a lot out of them, and I just don't feel like they're the same. And maybe it's me mentally and thinking, hey, if she has a bad night, it ain't just a bad night. It's totally bred her, So my deal with Ashley, I'm like, listen, when we breed this female, I'm probably done. I'm moving on, and he wanted to breed her, and we did. She had 9 pups, raised all 9 of them, and they're doing really good. They're 9 months old. I think like 4 of them's already got their money won. And awesome. Lady is taking that void, and just last week, headed to his hunt, I told Randy, I said, listen, I'm not stupid. I know that you're sitting there chomping at the bit, wanting to breed this female, and I know she's fixing to come and heat any day, and I just want to know where we're at. What are you thinking? And he says, hey, you're on a roll, keep rolling, and I got something right here behind her. So it's kind of like, I know the book is the last chapter is being written. I know that. I'm not stupid, but I think the new chapter of the new book is just beginning. And it's just there.
Yeah.
The introduction's already down there. It's in Pennsylvania, and I'm really excited to see. Hey, because I just don't know how. Randy's never told me anything that wasn't true, or at least that I hadn't found anything that wasn't true. When he tells me something, you can about take it to the bank, and he's got something there, and he's been telling me, and I'm just sitting there going, man, how? I just don't get it. I'm from the show me state, but hey, he showed me before, so I'm waiting. He's going to show me.
Yeah. Well, I think Lady, especially after this this performance that we watched last night, is going to have a lot of fans out there if she didn't already. And I'm imagining that there's a lot of people out there that are glad to hear that you're not going to retire her right now and breed her and give her a chance to get out there and do some more, because she is an exciting little gal to watch. You just kind of basically, however the hunt's going, this is my perspective. No matter how the hunt's going, you just expect a little lull in the action. And John saying, you got me over here, and Tree Lady, you just got that feeling it's going to happen at any time with her. And she's just a lot of fun to watch, one of the most memorable times I've had coon hunting in all my many years was watching her tree, make 2 trees in a bad, windy, rainy night when she's 8 months old, and have 2 coons each time at about 400 to 500 yards away, And I said, man, she's special. She's got a future. Well, I had no way of knowing that, but as a Lady fan, I'm glad to hear that you're going to give her a little more time out there. Really.
Yeah. I hope she's still got another win or 2 in her yet here.
Well, I do too.
Yeah.
Well, fellas, have I missed anything? Is there a memory from this experience, John, the hunt, something, a story? I noticed you and Jed sparring a little bit last night over that, which was funny, added a new dimension. I thought the video coverage was excellent, the best that I've seen so far on a coon hunt, and I think probably bringing Ben Sheets in. I think Ben's a Pennsylvania boy, isn't he, Randy? You? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know him. He's from Eastern PA somewhere.
Yeah. Well, he's done some podcasting. through W Hunting Supply Network, where we are. I want to mention this real quick for my listeners. I'm still with W Hunting Supply and on their platform, but we've gone out on our own, so to speak. It's always been a little difficult to find this podcast because you have to go to the W Hunting Supply podcast and their platform and go down through their schedule. Now you can just go to Spotify, Apple, iTunes, or wherever, search Gone to the Dogs or Steve Fielder, and it'll pop right up for you. So we're kind of a standalone, but yet we're still with the same organization. But at any rate, I thought the production was really good last night. Really good.
Yeah,
Have you guys taken the time to watch it, John?
I did. So I came home after hunting last night and watched it.
Okay.
And I thought the production was very good. I look at that and I'm like, surely I'm not that fat. I cannot be fat out of shape because I really look on that camera. And I hope I'm not.
Well, Randy told me,
John. I didn't notice anything about that, but I thought Suzanne looked great.
Yeah, Suzanne.
Hey, she definitely brightened up the show. I'll say that.
Yeah. I'll tell you what. That's one of the greatest parts of all this is I've totally won her over. She's on my side, so things are really good now.
Yeah. It was all good. I enjoyed it very much, and I always way back I did a TV show with ESPN out at Clarksville, Arkansas, and they had it ran around the country for a while at a PKC hunt out there, and I always wanted us to have a bigger presence out there in the media. Our sport. As you say, John, the crumbs, that's all we've ever gotten before is the crumbs. But I think we're coming. It looks like,
I think so. This is like the coverage they do of the Tournament of Champions and everything is, I would say there's people that, that would have never even thought about being interested in coon hunting or competition coon hunting have watched it, and it's got to be great that, maybe landowners, get to see it and they see that, these are stand-up guys out there, that are just, training world-class dogs that have a lot of value. And there's I don't see anything negative at all about it. It's wonderful.
Yeah. Thoughts on that, John? Did we lose John again?
I think we did.
I think
we did. Well, we've heard enough from him anyway. That's enough of that.
Well,
I wondered why he didn't say anything whenever I said I won Suzanne over because she's on my side. When he gets to picking on me, she's piping up in the background. So
okay. Well, hold on real quick, and I'll see if I can get him back for a parting shot, and we'll wind this thing up. Okay.
All right.
For just a second. Friends, with technology being what it is, we were unable to retrieve the last part of our conversation today with Randy Smith and John Strickland. I do promise you that I'll get these fellows back on the podcast because no doubt they'll be continuing their winning ways anywhere there are big purses to be won. I hope you enjoyed our podcast today with the owners and handler of Lone Pine Lady, the 2024 Joy Super Hunt winner. I've got some exciting news for the podcast that I want to leave with you just before we close for this episode. I'll be bringing a new sponsor aboard. Now, of course, we'll continue to be sponsored by and made possible by the good folks at W Hunting Supply. Buddy Woodbury has renewed his confidence in this podcast and has assured me that we'll go forward, and bigger and better is the plan. So we're certainly looking forward to that. One of the things that has been done is the podcast has been set out as its own entity. You can now find us by simply going into any of the searching the podcast providing apps like Spotify or Apple Podcast or any of those, and simply search Gone to the Dogs or Steve Fielder, and you'll find us. So that'll make it a little easier for you. We'll still remain part of the W Hunting Supply team, and I'm looking forward to working with some new and some familiar faces or voices in the days and months to come. So that's exciting. The new sponsor that we will be bringing aboard is very exciting. It's a name that's like a household word in coon hunting, and I don't want to spill the beans just yet, but within a couple of weeks we should be announcing this new sponsor. Exciting stuff for sure. Now, on March 14th, 15th, and 16th, I'll be up at the American Plot Association Breed Days in Greenville, Tennessee. I'll have, I haven't talked to the powers that be yet to know whether there'll be a booth set up, but I will have my equipment with me, and I hope to do some interviews while there, and mainly just enjoy the good fellowship that's always the cornerstone of that event. When you have good weather, there's nothing finer than that facility. Sits back in front of a backdrop of a majestic mountain where bear hunting takes place on a regular basis. And the APA has had the foresight to venture out into the world of coon hunting by offering night hunts and bench shows. And so my partner, Mark Miller, will be there, and I'll be staying with the group headed by Bill Scheninger, and I appreciate that very much from Bill. And we're just looking forward to seeing a lot of you at American Plot Association Breed Days in Greenville, Tennessee. So that's going to wrap it up for this episode, folks. We appreciate so much you listening, and as we watch the download numbers climb, we just are so thankful for you and your support of this podcast. If anyone asks you where's Steve Fielder these days, well, the answer's simple. As always, he's gone to the dogs.